The EV and electrification of America movement is, of course, a complete and total fraud. Everybody just recently found out, of course, that the EVs won't recharge in cold weather, which means you can't really rely on them north of the Mason-Dixon line for 4 months out of the year. That could be problematic in and of itself, but that's not really the problem. The problem, of course, is that if you were serious about electrifying America and moving from carbon to electricity as the source of energy across the entire United States, the very first thing that you would do before you took down the carbon plants, coal and gas fired, is you would build a ring of small nuclear power plants to produce the energy for an electrified nation that didn't use carbon. You see, you can't get to not using carbon without first having an alternative. And the alternative needs to be readily available, plentiful, and cheaper than carbon. Otherwise, it's not a viable plan. And while the rest of the world moves ahead using carbon, you will fall back into the Stone Ages as the electricity goes out and the energy goes away. If you're serious about the electrification of America, you need to start building immediately at least one small nuclear power plant in every single state in the country. We had over 200 30 years ago. Now there are less than 100. Nuclear energy is the only way to create an electrical grid with enough sufficient power and energy and supply all the time, not just when the wind blows or the sun shines, all the time. Without nuclear as the core energy system, you can't shut down the carbon plants. And to do so will simply deny energy to the people and transform our energy sector from a private sector business that was flourishing and leading the world 3 years ago into a disastrous government-run utility. That's the first thing socialists do when they come to power. They control the military, and then they control the utility grid, and they control the press. The first thing they do is take energy away. Oh, government has to ration it. They've shut down so much, brownouts and blackouts are commonplace in California. And you can bet the next step is for the socialists to complain that the private sector utility businesses there aren't managing it well enough. So the state of California needs to take it away from them. The design and the plan is to take over the utilities so that the government has control of energy and can ration it to its supporters, friends, and family, if you're Joe, and deny it to its political opposition, just like in Cuba, just like in Russia, just like in China, just like in Venezuela. Meanwhile, the whole system goes down. The point of all this electrical nonsense and anti-carbon is not to help the planet. It's not to produce clean, efficient energy here in the US because all the electricity is being created by carbon plants. There's no shutdown here. There's a takeover. There's no transformation. It's a takeover. They want to control energy. Energy is everything. It's your economy, it's your wealth, it's your productivity, it's your trade, it's your jobs. Energy is everything. When energy is cheap and plentiful, the people rule. They can be creative. They can try new things. They can go further. When energy is expensive, they can't afford to get to work 5 days a week. And government takes over energy. And nobody has any except the government. So the entire EV movement is a complete and total fraud. And you'll know it's a fraud until you see the Democrats advocating for the creation of nuclear power plants. But right now, they're shutting them down too. They don't want carbon. They don't want nuclear. They advocate for windmills and solar panels. Do you understand what that means on the grid? To not have sufficient carbon or nuclear? It means you pay more every day for gasoline. You pay more every month for electricity. You pay more every winter for heat. And the trends never reverse. Destroying energy is the most destructive thing a government can do to its own people. And it's what Joe Biden is pursuing as the point of his administration. If Joe Biden gets reelected, America will be destroyed.